Issues of the rule of law and Nigeria's democracy generates controversies and debates over a series of issues in the country as experts assess the Buhari government's approach to judicial issues and rights of citizens. And the federal government tells Nigerians not to fear over a UK judgment ruling on the forfeiture of some of the nation's assets over a deal which went bad. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimbaloye. For all those who have fears that Nigeria may have lost or will lose an asset worth almost 10 billion US dollars, wait a minute, you perhaps don't have much to fear. This is because the federal government says that will not happen. There is being a fear that Nigeria is about to lose its asset to an Irish company, PND, even as it seeks a stay of execution of the judgment awarded by a UK tribunal in favor of the firm. At a press conference today on the award of 9.6 billion US dollars against Nigeria, which had the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Finance, and the CBN governor in attendance, the federal government describes the ruling of the tribunal as unreasonable and an assault on Nigerians. Well, now, let's go to Lagos, where only a few days ago, the EFCC stormed the residence of the former Lagos governor, Akinwumi Ambode. And today, the State House of Assembly has begun a probe of some of the activities and spendings of his government. The Assembly today, during its plenary, has set up a committee to investigate the purchase of 820 buses by the administration of the former governor, Akinwumi Ambode. The House stated that it was important to investigate the purchase of the 820 buses out of the 5,000 buses proposed by the former governor for mass transit in the state, but which was purchased despite objection by the House of Assembly. Let's now check out some other political stories we are following for you on our political roundup.
Ahead of the 2023 general elections, the national chairman of the Action Democratic Party, Engineer Yabagi Sani, is challenging the Nigerian youths to participate fully in politics in order to salvage the country. Addressed at a news conference in Abuja, Engineer Yabagi also criticized the federal government for allegedly sidelining youths in the recently constituted cabinet of President Muhammadu Buhari.
ADP is set to change the narratives on poor leadership orientation, being the major challenges confronting good governance.
The Ogun State Governor, Dapo Abiodun, has assured investors in the state of policies and programs that will ensure good returns on investments. The governor, while enlisting the support and understanding of the business executives on private-public partnership in some key areas of development, however, assured them of good governance, transparency, and accountability.
Invest in Ogun State, and I assure you that you'll find us ready partners and reap bountiful harvest of your investment.
The Edo State Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, has urged residents to remain calm in spite of the attack, which he described as a one-off occurrence. The governor was speaking after a security meeting at the government house following the kidnap of the chief medical director of Irua Specialist Teaching Hospital, Mr. Sylvanus Okogbanin, in Benin City, the state capital, on Monday, which also claimed the lives of 2 police officers attached to him. Kogi State Chief Judge Justice Nasser Ajana has set up a 7-man committee to investigate the allegations of gross misconduct leveled against the Deputy Governor, Mr. Simon Achuba, by the Kogi State House of Assembly. Inaugurating the members at the conference hall of the State High Court in Lokoja, Justice Ajana noted that their appointment was based on their unquestionable integrity, urging them to bring it to bear in the discharge of their duties.
Now to our discussion of tonight, everyone. One of the critical areas the Buhari government is being assessed based on performance and perhaps policy is the area of separation of powers and perhaps the issues of respect for the rule of law. As a Nigerian, how would you rate the Buhari government in the first 4 years? on the actions of the government on the area of the rule of law. That issue came up at the ongoing Nigerian Bar Association conference in Lagos. The president of the bar, Mr. Osoro, believes the rule of law is centered around peace of the country. Take a listen to him.
Senior Advocate of Nigeria. If they had not built a good foundation, I would not be where I am today. And I thank all of you for that. Thank you very much. Senior Advocate of Nigeria. If they had not built a good foundation, I would not be where I am today. And I thank all of you for that.
Well, now, we will give you the soundbite on the NBA president, Mr. Osoro. For the Chief Justice of Nigeria, efforts, he says, will be made to ensure adherence to the rule of law. Take a listen to the plans of the bench in this area.
The Supreme Court will continue to punish blatant abuse of judicial process in courts and other sanctions available under our rules, just as other courts are at liberty to do the same in accordance with their respective rules of court. May I also invite the leadership of the Nigerian Bar Association to strengthen its disciplinary apparatus to respond to this continuing abuse, to ensure a comprehensive discouragement of such and other unethical conduct by legal practitioners, including members of the inner bar.
That is from the bench. The executive arm of government has a big role to play. There's been a lot of debate, criticisms, and appraisal. The Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, reiterates the perspective of the Buhari-led government and what they are doing.
Our actions as a government is apparent by conceding to adverse decisions, which is a clear testimony of non-interference in the judicial processes and functions in these countries. Cases with political undertones in which adverse decisions were handed down and conceded to by the government re-establish our resolve.
Well, let's get you back to hear from the NBA president, who believes that the rule of law and peace in the country has a connection. Take a listen to him.
Can you possibly have peace and justice without the rule of law? It is not possible. And so, the entire sense of being lawyers is to be sure that the rule of law is protected.
Well, you've heard those angles and those sound bites on the issues of rule of law. So when they're talking about what the government is doing, especially when the Attorney General of the Federation and in past, but I reiterated what the president said on national security, rights of citizens, and the rule of law. There's a lot of debate over it, a lot of the court processes that have went by and how the government of the day reacted to it in the last 4 years and presently. Let's get talking on this, everyone. My guest tonight will be weighing in on that. I have joining us from our Abuja studio is Mr. Ilemona Onoja, a lawyer, who will also be joined at some point on the program by Mr. Kayode Ajulo. Let's begin the conversation with Mr. Onoja. Mr. Onoja, how would you, you heard some of the conversation that have been raised at the NBA conference, which is ongoing in Lagos, and a lot of issues that have come up. How would you assess this government, especially in the area of rule of law?
Good evening, Cheryl. We must, if we're going to assess over the past 4 years, I don't see how the assessment anybody will give of the Buhari administration's respect for the rule of law and respect for the principles of separation of powers. I don't see how any assessment will be a positive one. Repeatedly, we have seen the executive under President Buhari attack and seek to subdue the other two arms of government. It has gone, some may say it has even achieved this on some sort of level. The truth is, starting from January 2016, when speaking in Addis Ababa, President Buhari said that the judiciary is his headache in his war against corruption, to the invasion of the homes of judges in October, I think it was, of 2016, to comments made at the 2018 Bar Conference about rule of law being subject to national security, to the statement made at the Senate during the ministerial screening by the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General of the Federation, that the administration will pick the judgments of court that it will obey and follow, to, so many other things, so many other examples. You cannot reach any sort of conclusion other than that the Buhari administration sees the rule of law and then, to a certain extent, the independence of other arms of government as an irritable obstacle that it has to overcome rather than take advantage of and work with. If you check it, you cannot reach, that is the inescapable conclusion. And the truth is, going by the things that we have heard, going by the things that we're hearing, going by the antecedents, both in the distant past, going all the way to 1984, 85, and in the immediate past, going all the way, to 2015, 2019, there's nothing that gives anybody any hope or positive expectation that the Buhari administration's stance on respect for the rule of law will change. It has been negative for almost all of its tenure, and it has demonstrated a rabid determination not to respect parts of our laws and parts of judgments of our courts that it believes do not favor it. We've seen this repeatedly. We're seeing it again.
Onoja.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah,
the track up to this,
I wanted to ask
this
you.
interview. In the track up to this interview, I'll give you a very quick example. You spoke about the issue of P&ID, where there's that $9.6 billion award by a UK court against the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And this is an example of the disdain that we have for judicial processes and proceedings under the Buhari administration. It is instructive to note that repeatedly the federal government didn't show up for arbitral proceedings. Repeatedly, it treated this thing disdainfully, and as a result, we're seeing the consequences.
Mr. Onoja, how would you describe the situation in present-day Nigeria judiciary in terms of the sanity, in terms of the state of corruption for and against the people who have debated? How would you describe it?
If I get you correctly, you're asking me to describe what my perception of the judiciary is in terms of corruption and its willingness to deal with corruption-related matters. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would say this. The Nigerian judiciary has, over the years, shown the most inclination and the most willingness to self-cleanse. Over the years, we have repeatedly seen where the judiciary has received petitions of wrongful, unethical conduct and corruption against members of the bar, of the bench, and then it processes these things and then gets these people out of the judiciary. The question that many people have asked over the years has been, well, maybe the process is a little bit too cumbersome, or maybe it isn't done as frequently as desired in our country. But the reality is, the simple reality is that over the years, going all the
All
way
right.
back to Justice Naron and in the Osun State matter, going back every year we see reports of the numbers.
Let me
of judges who
pause
have
you
been
for a moment.
investigated.
Sorry, Mr. Onoja. I'd like to take a break, but when we come back, we'll talk more on the Buhari government, the rule of law, and Nigeria's democracy. Don't go anywhere. We'll get some other perspective when we return from the break, everyone. Join us. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's get back to the conversation. President Muhammadu Buhari, the APC government, and the rule of law. How would you assess it? Based on what a lot of people are saying, the members of the bench, the members of the bar, and people within the judiciary. A lot of people who are ordinary Nigerians who do not even have knowledge of the law. But tonight, we're getting lawyers to get a sense of what this government is doing and the adherence to the rule of law. Mr. Ilamana Onoja is a lawyer. He's been in our Abuja studio. He's been talking to us. He does not really agree that this government is respectful to the rule of law. We've now been joined by Mr. G.T. Ogunye, also a senior lawyer in Nigeria, and he's joined us in our Lagos studio here. Thank you so much, Mr. Ogunye, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
How would you say that this government has a respect for the rule of law?
You know, broadly speaking, there are two extremes. On the part of the government, we have violations of the rule of law with the spokespersons of the government in the executive branch of the federal government of Nigeria justifying these violations on all sorts of grounds, including the ground of national security, and insisting that, indeed, this government is wholly and fully observant of the rule of law. At the other end, you also have people who also want to use the rule of law as a shibboleth, as a cover-up. And when they've been taken through the judicial processes or the investigation processes, they start shouting that, oh, you have a violation of the rule of law. And for people in that category, we've charged, even before now, that they are using the rule of law as a ruse of law to cover up. My take is that this government is not fully observant of the rule of law. And we can't be debating these issues as if we don't know what we're talking about. They are clear cases of violations. Court will give orders in respect of certain persons to be released, and they are not released.
But Mr. Ogunye, sorry if I may butt in. When the government says national security is preeminent, and when rights of some citizens seems to be in collusion with the rule of law, they rather we take the interest of larger percentage of the nation. That's the defense of the Attorney General of the Federation. How do you substantiate that defense on that ground?
That defense is not correct. You know, I've always explained that it is not for the executive to determine what is in the national security interest and use that as a basis to violate the fundamental rights of the citizens. You can't determine that it is imperative to violate the rights of the citizens or any of the citizens on the ground of national security as an executive branch of government without the judiciary saying so. So if a court of law, for example, has given a positive and clear order that a person who is being detained be released, it can no longer be an excuse that is being held on the ground of national security, and because of that, the executive will disobey willfully that positive order of court. It is not on You cannot be the determinant of what is in our national security interest as an executive branch of government and use that as a platform to violate the rights of the citizens. You can't do so. More so when the court has intervened. That's why under Section 66B of the Constitution, the court is regarded as the arbiter.
But what about
the citizens?
knowledge of the issue of national security that the executive arm of government has? What about that?
Look, let me give you there are occasions in which, in some terrorist cases, there are occasions in which some persons have been brought to trial. People don't realize it. In this Lagos, some Boko Haram elements were tried by the Federal High Court. And that trial was done in camera, in Lagos here. And they were convicted because the court will know that it is not in the interest of our national security to have an open trial. I'm telling you that it cannot just be that the executive branch of government will say, look, we know what the people do not know. We know what the court do not know. It is in our own interest, national security interest, to hold on to these persons. So regardless of what the court say, we hold on to the person because we are the determinants of what constitutes our national security interest. I'm saying that that is not acceptable.
Okay, just remember, let me ask Mr. Onoja quickly. Mr. Onoja, perhaps your final submission on the program tonight. What do you suggest will be the way forward for some people who criticize the judiciary that it should also look inward and sanitize itself and what the government is doing presently?
I would quickly say this. I will quickly say this, and it's very clear. In agreement with Leonard Senior, Mr. Ogunye, whenever Mr. Abubakar Malami, the Attorney General of the Federation, wants to make these statements that he makes, he often cites the judgment of the Supreme Court in Dokubo versus Federal Republic of Nigeria. But I don't know whether it is deliberate that he does the misinterpretation, because exactly what Mr. Ogunye said just now is what the Supreme Court said, that it is not for the executive to determine how or if the national security interest will be placed superior to the rights and constitutional freedoms of anybody. Now, in direct answer to your question, like I said before we went on a break, the judiciary has shown repeatedly the willingness to self-cleanse. If anybody is dissatisfied with the process for self-cleansing or with the procedure for self-cleansing, or says that the time involved is too lengthy, it is not for you to seek to, on your own, by executive fiat, to abridge that process.
All right.
It is for you to go back to the legislature.
We need to go now.
It is for you to go back to the legislature.
All right. I need to allow Mr. Ogunye just in 20 seconds, your submission on this. What do you think is the way forward? If you have a sanitized society and in the frame of the rule of law.
In closing, let me just say that the case of Dokubo and Federal Government of Nigeria that is often cited in justification of this national security fallacy was decided, among other reasons, on the ground that it was Mr. Professor Keyamo-san that handled that matter. On the ground that you asking us to grant you bail, and you have not denied the treasonable offenses alleged against you. You've not countered it. So there is no platform for us to exercise our discretion in your favor. So finally, I say that you cannot grow democracy, particularly liberal democracy, outside the framework of the rule of law. Because a constitutional democracy is erected on the foundation of the rule of law, including a constitution which altogether is a body of the rule of law. Because you're talking about a body of laws assembled in a document, and you must observe all those things.
We must anchor at that point. But I must sincerely thank you for your legal opinion on the program, unpaid for tonight. But thank you so much for it. And also as well as Mr. Lemona Onoja. Thank you so much for your submission on the program tonight. We hope that at some point government will also come forward and speak on this issue based on the conversation and debate on tonight's program. But that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Okimale. Bye-bye.